On today's episode of the DeRaud-Messinger Show, Dylan, we're going to talk about the game that even the company itself doesn't want to talk about. EA Sports NCAA Football 24. Football fans, video game fans, EA Sports fans, just please give us support. We appreciate likes, subscribes, of course. But we also, more importantly, Dylan, we want to hear what you guys have to think in terms of your own personal wish list in this upcoming football game, which we hope, of course, sounds like it's coming, but we hope we get some sort of anything, Dylan. Screenshots, gameplay, trailers, something, please, breadcrumbs. But to just get into our conversation, Dylan, I did want to note that some of these things on our wish list are not necessarily new things. Some of these have been in past and previous games, and we're hoping for them to be retained. And then others are new ideas or slight improvements that we would like to see. We've broken it up by category to make it easy to follow. But Dylan, anyone who's watched our videos knows sometimes we can be all over the place. So we'll see how well we keep with the categories. The first of which being gameplay. Dylan, take it away.
Yeah, Devon. Well, what I always enjoyed about NCAA college football was the difference that you felt between playing Madden and playing the college football version, right? And that really came down to the pace of the gameplay. A lot faster, the way things kind of moved, whether that was the weird, I don't even call it commercials, but like they were trying to simulate how you'd take some time, set the stuff up. With college football, I want to just be going into it. I want really the option to go no huddle very quickly, keep pushing that football down the field. That's, I feel like, the biggest thing. And then on top of that, Devin, which I know you don't like, but I want it. I want you to feel
Oh gosh.
the difference in athleticism because that's what you feel in college football sometimes. You got a 5-star with 99 elusiveness. I want that guy being able to break probably every tackle unless he's playing some Georgia linebacker, right? So maybe some cheesy plays mixed in. I wouldn't say no to that.
Yeah, when you say cheesy plays, I do get in a little fear shell, Dylan. I start getting the fetal position going because I'm not
Yeah.
sure where you're going with the cheesy
Hmm.
plays. I think it is, of course, nice to see a difference in skill, as you were saying. If you're an Oregon running back and you have 99 speed, cough, cough, DeAnthony Thomas back in the day, and you're playing
Yeah.
a non-power 5 school, no offense to those schools, with someone that has a running back at like a 70 speed, or excuse me, let's say a linebacker with a 70 speed. Yeah, sure, I want to be able to take advantage of that matchup. Cheesy plays though, Dylan.
Yeah. That's mostly what I mean with mismatches, though, or like cheesy plays and mismatches. Like if I have the 6'5", you know, 5-star wide receiver for LSU, I want to be able to moss pretty much anybody unless they're on Mel Kiper's draft board.
Mic drop. I would like to see, just in addition to what you're saying, though, I'd like to see some more creative plays. Of course, since the last NCAA football game has come out, there's been new concepts run, and I don't know if they've been implemented in
Yeah.
some of the newer Maddens, Dylan, but nowadays there's almost like double fake screen passes to tight ends and stuff. It would be fun to see something like that, and that would really take advantage of certain matchups, the tight end linebacker matchup. If you have a guy at tight end who's a 99 overall, I'm
Yeah.
going to try to, as you said, Dylan, abuse that matchup as much as possible. And then one other thing I said, you kind of harped on it a little bit. It's just I want this game to feel different than Madden. I believe we've heard, Dylan, that the engine and everything is somewhat going to be different. And of course, they have different teams working both the Madden and the NCAA games. But I do want this to feel like a
Mhm.
different game. Growing up, I always enjoyed the NCAA games more than the Madden games. And I think you probably could say the same. It just was not arcadish because I still think it was pretty realistic in terms of what they could achieve, but it was a little more just fun to play and more entertaining. As you were saying, picking
Yeah.
an Oregon, like there was a reason to do that, especially when Dylan was over there being the team that had to play me because it was just burn after burn, Dylan. But you do want a
Hmm.
little sort of difference in play styles in between the two games.
Yeah.
And then home field advantage, it would be nice if they brought back, I don't know, was it NCAA 14, Dylan, with the ice to kicker? They had, maybe it was an older one.
They had been quite a few though. I feel like where it would get a little bit wonky, where it was harder to control at least the kick. But there were some where you would zoom in on the player, make your vision way off. Like, and that's something I wanted in here too. Is like freeze the kicker. I feel like a staple, especially if you're calling the timeout before he kicks it. Right. And I want the player to have some vertigo. It needs to be a lot harder than it should be.
Yeah, a little head rush going. I definitely think that's something they should bring back for sure. In a mascot mode, Dylan, I mean, that's
Oh yeah.
gameplay or mode. They need to bring back some of that stuff just for the fun of it. Mascot mode, we'll see if it brings back or comes back, excuse me, in that first rendition back. But if not, hopefully in year two. Dylan, were there any other gameplay things you'd like to see?
Well, I know for me, I wanted to be able to choose the bowl game, right? So you can pick the Rose Bowl, you can pick the Peach Bowl, you can pick where the College Football Playoff is played at, just when you're playing in free play. Then another one, I wanted all-time teams, Devin, and this could be inclusive of teams that had NCAA games out when they were, playing, or also just the most recent teams, to name a few, like I think it was 2015 Ohio State with Ezekiel Elliott, you got 2019 LSU with Joe Burrow and all those guys, teams that we missed out on that we can now play with Oklahoma, Kyler Murray, right? But then also go back and play with the '08 Florida Gators or 2010 Auburn, just get some Cam Newton in there.
I think that would be great, and especially a point we're going to talk about later is Ultimate Team. If you have some of those guys in Ultimate Team, you figure they'd be able to do something about that in a quick gameplay mode as well. I need to bring back the Tebow Glory days doing the I think double NCAA cover feature. Any other points
And
on
just never pass the ball.
QB power every single play? Any other gameplay points,
Yep.
or shall we move on?
I think I'm ready to get into the next one.
All right, the next one we have is presentation. Presentation is almost an easier thing to just brainstorm off the top. Gameplay, we assume everyone kind of has an idea in their head of what they're looking for there. Presentation, Dylan, we were talking about it before. It would be nice to see game day back in this game. I believe it was in some prior version. We could be wrong there, but they definitely have typically in the games ESPN personalities such as Kirk Herbstreit. In this game, you assume they're going to bring Fowler into the fold here as well. It would be nice, especially in a dynasty mode, Dylan, before your game, or if you have an online dynasty going, you can hear the game day guys kind of trashing you against your friends in a matchup. And just any Lee Corso I can get, Dylan, I'm going to try to have as much of him.
Yeah.
And Pat McAfee for all that goes for. But how do you feel about presentation here?
Yeah, with that, I kind of wish, and they probably never done it like this before, but being able to choose which broadcasts you want, so you can have SEC on CBS, I think that would be awesome. I'd
Well,
also
now
love
it's going to
some
be
big noon
ESPN, I
football on
think, next year.
Fox.
They're
Because I was gonna say I want Joe Clyde and Gus Johnson at least for
oh
my morning games
for
with the
sure.
sun out.
Yeah, next year it's yet again. This is topic for another day, but yeah, all the TV coverage, it seems to be kind of shaking around. I think CBS is moving to the Big Ten. I think ESPN, I believe, is taking the SEC, and of course Fox is still in the fold as well. It would be fun. I wrote that down to see Gus and Joel. I mean, I love Herbie, Dylan, but I've met Gus in person. That was the crowning moment of my life. I just had to flex
Say
that.
what you want about Gus, all right, with the energy he brings, but he's perfect. He's perfect for a video game. That's exactly the energy
Oh,
you want.
100%. And Joel is one of the smartest guys in football as well. It would be nice to just, depending on your matchup, get different broadcasters, Dylan. And even if you wanted to change that in the quick
Yeah.
gameplay mode, to be able to do that as well, that'd be super cool. And I also put, it'd be nice, I know, Dylan, you were talking about you just want to get straight into the game when you play. It would be nice if they kind of brought some of the Madden element over in terms of when you're getting those broadcasters on the call, you have them actually talking there at the start. Yet again,
Yeah.
Gus Johnson freaking out literally in person on the screen. That would be fun to see. And some sideline reporters, depending on whichever crew, to see them making their remarks would be cool as well.
Mm.
But anything else you had in terms of
I
that?
agree. And if we could do old time announcers too. If we get some Musburger calls,
Oh,
that would be amazing. Just
The
no
goat.
shots of Alabama cheerleaders would probably be the only
No.
problem with that. But other
No
than that, yeah, I
cheerleaders are
think
safe.
throwbacks like that would be perfect. No.
I mean, I think Musburger would be in on something like that. If he gets a cut out of that, he likes to make his bets in Vegas. He gets a cut out of it, yeah.
Well, and we have AI now, right? Like you can put anybody's
Oh,
voice in there
literally,
nowadays.
yeah. Make make a donation to charity or something for them. Something we'd like to get some of that back. Dylan, and some of the obvious things
Yeah.
that I don't think are being questioned on any level. Of course, you need the school songs back for every school that's in the game. Would it be nice to
Yep.
have some blimp shots, not necessarily of pre-recorded B-roll that's in real life, but to have like a virtual blimp shot of the stadium to really get to showcase all that they've designed in the game would be awesome. And I think for me, that Dylan, those are the major things I'd like to see in presentation. Did you have anything else?
Yeah.
Was there anything else?
No, I with presentation, it really just comes down to the announcers for me and what kind of scoreboards we're getting. Like, are we getting the CBS or are we getting? It sounds like the ESPN scoreboards.
And scoreboards matter, Dylan. I won't let anyone tell me differently. Now, next one we've got. This is where the fun begins, I feel like, and I think this is where the committed players and the loyal users really get to dig in here. We're going to start with Dynasty, and admittedly, Dylan, I think when I was playing NCAA back in the day, this was not my number one mode. I think I liked Road to Glory a little bit more, but as I've gotten older and played some of the different games, my GM sort of modes or, any sort of general manager feel to it, such as a Dynasty, has really
Yeah.
become my personal favorite. In Dynasty, Dylan, I think the number one thing is we're hoping that online dynasties with friends are made possible in this game. Of course, it wouldn't really be a true NCAA football game or EA Sports game without that friendly component, Dylan. But just the ability to check in with friends, and if there's a way to trash talk fellow coaches, I one of my points, Dylan, is we should be able to have press conferences, and it'd be funny if the
Mm,
upcoming
yeah.
matchup is against a team controlled by a friend, and a reporter asks you some sort of question, and you're able to answer about that team, and you can take your veiled shots. That would be great. But how do you feel
Mm.
about Dynasty?
No, I think that would be great. The amount of times I'd say Devon was probably stealing my signs would come up a lot in press conferences. Not feeling like there's integrity on the other side. Boosting one's score up when they're up 20 already. A lot of things would come out, Devon, for sure. And I think friendships would be tested. But that's besides the point. My biggest thing, Devon, I wonder how you feel about this. But I really want, and I think this is a stretch, right? But I really want them to lean into the NIL and transfer portal. I want the ability to just go ham on that. Like, I'm throwing money at them. I'm doing politics as a head coach, talking to the boosters, trying to get the money here.
As what team?
Somebody in Austin's got a Ferrari. Well, it's just like that was the thing. Like, it would depend. Like, let's say, if I'm the Longhorns, right? I got some pretty invested boosters. I'm taking them down to Sixth Street, right? Showing them a good time. We're going to the Ferrari shop, test drive it a little bit, and then when you're in Road to Glory, you can test to drive, your little Ferrari that Coach Sark is hooking you up with, right? So, like, that type of stuff, I would really like them to just lean in on and transfer portal, especially the head coach, kind of take your stance on it. If you want to be Dabo, you can say some stuff. Be like, I
Anti-transfer
want
portal.
loyalty.
Yeah.
My NIL is just God. All right, we only respect God here. That's the NIL we go with. So that's um that's where I'm at with that. I'm curious if they even go that route, but I really lean into just head coaches and this whole new world that we're living in with the transfer portal.
And that would be funny too, Dylan. Yet again, I'm really diving into these press conferences. If you had the ability in your press conference to say something either pro or anti transfer portal, and then it gives you some sort of bonus. If you're anti the guys on your team, are 5% more loyal for the rest of the season and less likely to enter.
Yeah,
Or if you're like, oh, competition creates excellence, then, everyone on your team's like, ooh, I don't know, maybe I should think about leaving. I think NIL and transfer
mm,
portal will be more accentuated in this game. Transfer portal did exist, but not to the extent that it's so prevalent now. NIL definitely Dylan. And I think that is good in another regard. The fun part about Dynasty is choosing a small team or an unsuccessful team in a big conference and making them into something great. I think NIL and transfer portal adds an added challenge in a good way for the user where they're going to have to, compete with some of the bigger schools such as in Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, etc., where you've developed a guy who's now maybe a sophomore or a junior, but now you're having to still pitch to him on why he should stay with your team and not transfer to a big powerhouse. I mean, really, the options are endless. And Dylan, one thing I wanted to put out there, and I want your take on it. Dynasty, in general, I feel like the guys you recruit, once they get on board, they're pretty much going up a couple overall every season. And at the end of the game, they're going to end up, most likely, unless you just have someone that didn't have a lot of potential to start with, most likely end up a lot better than they were, of course, when you recruited them. But that being, there's plenty of 90 overall players on your team when it's all said and done, when maybe there shouldn't really be that many 90. I like to see some unpredictability because only so many guys are going to be NFL caliber in any recruiting class. How do you feel about that?
No, I like that. I had that written down too, where it comes down to like character issues. So you can get a guy who's got potential, 99, but maybe he doesn't like to show up to practice on time, or
Or
he
he's
eats
missing
Chick-fil-A
class.
every day, right? Exactly, missing class, right? So all of these things you have to take into account that might hurt you in the future. And then as well as Devin, I wanted a hidden gems. Obviously, you can't say it. I don't know if you could put an icon next to it, but like you have a chance of getting a guy that's not 3 stars. He could be like a no star, right? But all of a sudden, he's this impact player, and if you got the right ecosystem with the right coordinators, you can build him up, and now he's starting for your team and possibly even getting into the 90 overall kind of stratosphere.
Yeah, I think just as long as not every player is given to progress at such an extent every single season, I think that's a plus. I think it would be
Yeah.
dumb to say that players shouldn't progress at all. I think once you get into a college ecosystem with the coaching and the time you have committed and the resources, your your game should evolve from the high school level. But are you going to be able to keep up with the guys that you're competing with? Not always, of course. So it'd be nice
Yeah.
to see some recruiting duds, Dylan. Of course, with the bigger stars you have attached to a player, you'll probably see a less percentage of players that fall through the cracks in that way. Versus if you recruit a 3-star, Dylan, like you're saying, it could be a little hit or miss. This 3-star might become the next Tom Brady, or he's going to transfer out to a smaller school in 2 years because you had to start someone over him. It would be something cool to
Yeah.
see. Another thing, create a stadium, Dylan. I mean, that would be awesome to see. For example, Hawaii used to play at Aloha Stadium, which had the Pro Bowl. Yet again, we're having a
Mm.
real issue and debate in our future Dynasty League. I would love to play with Hawaii, but Dylan, they're pretty much playing at a middle school stadium, at least if you're looking through a Texas high school football lens. It would be nice to build them a nice stadium, which they plan on doing. Or for some of the smaller schools that don't have future plans, if you're successful and you've turned, your coaching resume into one that mirrors Nick Saban's, and now the admissions of the
Yeah.
school are making a lot of money for the school. It would be nice to see some of that, turn into a new stadium. Of course, plenty of stadiums don't need something like that. You look at Michigan's The Big House, or yet again a
Yeah.
DKR for the Longhorns. But it would be nice to see
Mm.
your impact literally on the program and the university turn into something bigger than just that.
Well, and I think you got to talk to your boosters on that too. Like that would come into the play
That
with
would
the
be
with the
great.
booster
See, that's a good
conversations as
idea.
well as yeah. But you also made a note where I swear if I have a quarterback battle and I choose one or the other, and then one of somebody pays him some money and he transfers to that school and then is just the best player ever. I don't know if well,
I don't know if I'd
honestly, if you're on the
recover.
other side of it, I'd love to live. Yeah, but like if I stole somebody from you, right? Paid them a good amount of money,
Oh,
transferred over, won a championship in your face, right? But like if it happened to me, I don't know if I could go on.
beggars can't be
any
choosers,
longer.
Dylan. If you can get one of my star players, I mean, go
Understood.
for it.
Understood.
But yeah, that would
But
be
it sounds like
upsetting.
Hawaii is just nice all the time. So
Well, as you're saying, if you're Ohio State and Joe Burrow transfers, which doesn't hurt at the time so much, but then he goes and wins a championship, that would hurt my soul. I mean, I'd be feeling
yeah.
that for years to come, even though it's a video game. But like you said, it would be fun if, as a coach, you could have talks with donors and ask for things like that, and NIL contributions, of course, name, image, and likeness, or even have your coach in some commercials of its own doing, such as Nick Saban. That would be quite
Yeah.
entertaining. Another thing, yet again, I think this is a one that is returning, or at least hopefully returning, is conference realignment. It would be nice to shift the conferences around a little bit over time. Yet again, the Pac-12 is lonely, Dylan. Those teams need a home. Let's do something with it and fix that issue. But some other quick hitters, Dylan, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but from the end of the season to the start of the next season, there's really nothing going on other than recruiting and just simulating the off season. It would be fun to have a spring game, and maybe after the spring game, you know a little bit more about your players, and maybe someone else chooses to transfer to Dylan's team, unfortunately. So, anything like that grabs your attention?
No, I had conference realignment on here as well. We got definitely moving things around, depending on how you want to do stuff, right? Where you could just make two power conferences, and it's the SEC and the Big Ten, and you have fun with that. So the sandbox type of feel, I think I'm always down for.
100%. And Dylan, I think the last note about Dynasty that I want to say, I had recruiting trips would be fun if there's some way that you had to
Yes.
allocate resources instead of just getting points and spending it on players. You had to make real time decisions in that week about things such as text, calls, mail. You know, you're just flooding the inbox of your recruits and trying to make it.
Sleep at their house.
That might be a bit far for most coaches doing
Well, like
it.
that. I mean, that works for some coaches. Yeah.
If you lock them in, you might get an answer there or something from the courts, Dylan. But just overall,
Hmm.
more interactive recruiting
Pay
interface.
for a cheeseburger.
Yeah, cheeseburger, and then you get hit with the NCAA notification. That'd be funny. It gives
Mm.
you a yes or no. Pay for player's meal, yes, and then a week later, you've just been sanctioned. um, but it would be fun to have more interactive interface versus you just put points towards a player's recruitment and hope he commits. It would be nice to, every phone call helps in the recruitment, gives you a little bonus or something like that. I think they've had that
Yep.
in some versions of the past, but they did go away from that. It would be nice to see something like that elevated. And you could add the social media element to it as well. That wasn't as prevalent in the last, time the game came out, 2013.
Oh,
Way different landscape than it is now.
if someone tweets during my halftime speech, oh, they're
Oh,
off
that'd
the
be
team.
funny.
Then they can go to the portal.
Or someone's watching what the Polar Express during your halftime speech doing. I don't know. They might have to hit that
Somebody's
transfer
recording it on the
portal.
back of my bus or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Was there any more dynasty comments you had?
No, no. I again, more customizability, the better, and just really lean into the NIL.
Exactly. Just the more creative, the better as well. We want to see creativity. I think that's what everybody wants to see. It's been a long time off, and I know the EA Sports team has brought in some passionate people who loved NCAA doing. I believe we're part of the revamped series of the game, and those guys really knew what they were doing. So hopefully they have free control over some of the things they like to add. But Dylan, now I'm gonna get to Road to
I'm
Glory.
still terrified.
Yeah,
I'm
it.
so they're just gonna take our money, Devin. They're just gonna take our money, and it's not gonna be what we wanted, but we're gonna play it anyways. I'm ready for it.
Uh, I hope that is not the case, but it is a real fear, of course, a legitimate fear, especially in the way that these games have kind of turned into in years late. Now, Road to Glory, Dylan, similar to what we were just talking about before, it would be fun to have some NIL opportunities. That might get a little interesting. You might have some stories to tell after, Deion Sanders or something takes you on a visit
Oh,
to Colorado and brings you into a room with just a bunch of donors and money. I mean, yet again, Deion
fuck.
keeping your name out of here, but it
Mm,
would be funny to
yeah.
have some sort of story like that, because I feel like every guy that has been recruited has some sort of story that they censor out a little bit, Dylan. It would be fun to see something a little out of the ordinary. Transfer portal, of course, and I also put recruiting unpredictability, similar to what I was talking about just a second ago, where you have some sort of shakeup last second and maybe you make a late signing day change. But Dylan, how do you feel Road to Glory? Loving any of those?
I mean, for me, I really like to play the one season in high school. So you got the 8 games that you play to really increase your draft stock. I really like that stuff. I like it when it's more realistic too, based on your performance. You can go be a third string running back for Alabama, or you can be, a first string running back for UTSA. And then obviously with the transfer portal, now you can transfer anywhere, right? So it adds that kind of depth to it. And then as well as depending on the state that you pick, I want to be able to go to the stadium, right? So like if I'm in Texas and I get to the state title, I want to play in Jerry's World, right? Or if I'm in California, I want to go to SoFi Stadium. Like that type of stuff to really add that to it. And then interviews, recruitment with actual coaches. And I want that to be unique, right? Like I want Jim Harbaugh to come down and recruit me and like leap over, right? And we do like some like survival tactics outside, right? Like stuff like that. Or
Big
like
Harbaugh guy.
Dabo takes me to a local church. Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, listen, if I got the talent, man, Jim
Oh
Harbaugh's
boy.
coming down.
There's already
It's
been
obviously into
too many
consideration.
Michigan
But yeah,
references in this video. Um, but Dylan, like you're saying on the depth chart, it would be fun, just like I was talking about in terms of the unpredictable nature. You're supposed to be the first string on UTSA, and then a week before signing day, they announce that they're bringing in some sort of transfer running back, and just some sort of
mm,
last minute stuff, like you were saying. And I did like playing as a high school athlete in this mode, Dylan. I would advocate that it would be fun to even have your players start as a freshman or a sophomore or a junior. Still a short season, but I feel like the high school aspect of this game does pass by very quickly. You're almost thrown into the playoffs, and then you're in the collegiate ranks. I think it'd be fun, and they don't have to really pay
yeah.
for the rights of any kind to the high school games. It would be fun to have a little bit more of a high school career and build up the story of your athlete. And also, Dylan, I must note, yet again, Colorado shout out again. It would be fun to have the ability to play two ways, such as Travis Hunter,
Yes, yes.
or or maybe just in high school, and then you can decide later. Or maybe you're recruited, by one school to play one position, another school to play another position. It would be fun to have that ability. And then at the collegiate level, if you are, so good at that ability, such as a Travis Hunter, you're able to do both. I think that would be cool. And then the last point I'll make, Dylan, before I hand the floor over to you, such as the allocating of resources that I talked about in dynasty mode for coaches, I think it would be cool if you had to somewhat manage, not totally, because it might take way too much time, Dylan, for you to have to tinker with this every week in your game mode. But it would be fun to manage your individual's time. Of course, time management in college is pretty important. So it would be funny if you had some resources to allocate and you had to balance things such as a social life, school, of course, on-field performance,
Mm.
NIL, and even if you're not looking like you're going to end up in the NFL, Dylan, maybe some sort of future employment thing. So it would be funny if you had to allocate all those, and maybe, one week.
Okay, but at what point are we like in class now? Like, not like at what point is this now just college and no longer we're playing football?
Oh, no comment, no comment. But wouldn't it be funny if you're playing, let's say yet again, we're talking about Michigan, you're playing Ohio State at the end of the week, and yet again you have your resources and you want to max out on maybe your NIL opportunities because people are talking about you that week, so you really want to get all that. And then you also want to max out your on-field preparation because you want to do well, but then you don't have enough resources for your academics or something, and Coach
Yeah.
Harbaugh has to come and have some sort of talk with you. Or yet again, we don't know what's going to happen to Harbaugh. Maybe someone else doing. Maybe some other coach has to give you a talk. But how do you feel about all
Listen,
of that?
if I'm beating Ohio, if I'm beating Ohio State, I definitely don't have to go to class the next day. Like, let's be real. Like, that's definitely not in the cards there. But yeah, I mean, I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been '06 or '05 for the PS2. But I know that there was drills that you could do throughout the week before the game to like increase your level or upgrade some attributes. So I would still love for that to be there. Now, do I still want to go to my 9 a.m. gender studies class the next day, like as one of the ways to increase my cognitive ability? Probably not, right? So I think we dumb that down
See,
a
there
little
you
bit.
go.
I'm good with it.
Hey, but
But
by not going to
yeah,
that
no, I
gender
like what you're
studies
saying though.
class, your IQ on the football field somehow drops. I don't know. Doesn't exactly translate,
But
but
also, like, if you sign up to go to the aquarium on 6th Street the night before the game, I don't think you should be able to play at full strength. So,
that would be entertaining. I don't know if they want to add that element
yeah,
to the football game, or else
probably
things will
not.
get a little interesting in terms of the management of the team.
Yeah.
But Dylan, I don't know. It just there's so many ideas we just came up with now. If you even dedicated more time to it, we could be talking about this for hours. So yet again, let us know down below some of your ideas. Dylan, was there anything else you had in terms of a Road to Glory edition you'd like to see?
And again, NFL stadiums playing in it, but really, I like the aspect of like, you play 4 games, you get a recruitment visit. 2 games later, you get some more recruitment visits. You see kind of where you stand, how many offers you have, and then as you get closer, you got to narrow down the offers, and then you make your final decision, after the season or so. So I really like that customizability, but also just the clear progression throughout the season.
100%. And now, Dylan, we're going to move into what you maybe were somewhat hinting at earlier in terms of microtransactions and things of the sort. We're talking about Ultimate
Oh,
Team. It is everyone's favorite mode and least favorite mode at the same time, Dylan. This is a reason why people like me have, yet again, tried to just harbor ourselves in terms of like a my GM sort of mode where our time is valued and we can create something without the microtransactions. But we're talking about Ultimate Team yet again. It is somewhat pay to play. So one of the things I put on here is it would be nice to have the ability to build a nice team without having to pay for coins or anything of that sort. Dylan, how do you feel about something as simple as that?
well, Devin, I hate to break it to you, but in this economy, with how the fact that this game will be probably $80, they're also going to have those microtransactions in it.
Well, in this
This is
economy, we
more of
can't be
your
paying for
time
those
on.
coins.
I was going to say this is more your. I'm not an ultimate team guy. I'm just not. If there's Dynasty and there's Road to Glory, I won't be touching Ultimate Team, if at all. But I know this is where you really are dedicated. If you want to go back to past videos of Devin, you can get some insight and tricks on how to best put together your Ultimate
or
Team,
or maybe not.
or maybe not.
But
But
Dylan,
yeah, no, like
well, just to
I agree with the less microtransactions would be nice.
100%, and just to jump in, if they were to include microtransactions, which we all know will be in this mode, Dylan, it would be funny to see at least the microtransactions disguised as a different label, such as an NIL, where you're recruiting these Ultimate Team players to sign for your team.
Mom, I swear I'm just donating. I'm just
My collective needs my funds right now. It might work in terms of asking your
I have
parents
to
for
get the
these
five
funds.
star, Mom. I have to.
It might
Yeah.
work. This sounds like something that might convince a parent. You're learning
Yes.
about the ways of the business world and sports, and that I commend Dylan. But
Mm,
another thing
yes.
I'd like to talk about, I love and hate this as well. This idea is a team chemistry,
Mm,
sort of similar to what FIFA has, where if you have players, for example, in this scenario, that are from the same state, the same team, the same conference, or maybe the same era, they all get a slight
mm.
boost in performance. It would be nice to see something like that in terms of it would make you get a little creative with your team management.
Yeah, like fitting the scheme. I can't remember exactly which game that was. maybe Madden has it, but like if the player fits the scheme, right, it works out. Like if I'm getting, you know, Joe out from Iowa to play for my Iowa, like he fits the scheme. He's a power running back, right? Or he's
Or he's
he's
a
a white
great punter.
quarterback, stuff like that. He's a great punter, exactly.
The scheme is punt the ball on fourth down. But I would jokes aside.
Big special teams guy.
Hey, we love our special teams here. Special teams doing wins
Yeah, you do.
championships.
Nebraska kicker. Devon loves some Nebraska
Oh
kickers.
man, we have some trauma that Dylan's trying to bring up mid video. I'm gonna swipe that away like a clever Nick Saban swipe. And Dylan, another thing about
Nice.
Ultimate Team, yet again, let us know down below what you'd like to see about it. But it would be fun to see as many greats as possible, whether that be players, even coaches. Dylan, I know in NBA 2K you have the ability to choose a coach. It would be cool if you could choose between different greats, get your Bobby Bowden's,
Yeah.
etc. Nick Saban, now that he has retired, it would be fun to be able to have him on the sidelines. And yet again, they'll benefit from it as well, dealing with our microtransactions, our NIL funds, if you will. And this one, I doubt it will happen just because it will take a lot of resources, but it would be cool to see some, throwback stadiums. Even for stadiums that currently exist now, it would be cool to play with the version from, 1982 or something. But yet again, I know that does take a lot of designing, so that might be a bit of a reach. But was there anything else that you'd like to see in Ultimate Team?
I was just gonna say, be careful with that because then you're getting like $100. You can get Bear Bryant and the old Alabama Stadium, right, and like the old announcers, but it's gonna cost you just for some cosmetics.
Well, that sounds good to me. But was there anything else, Dylan? I, hey, Bear Bryant as a coach
Not
would be
really.
awesome. No. All right, now we got to get to the juicy topic that who knows. Hopefully, this gets unveiled sooner rather than later. We want to end it on a light note with the game's cover. Dylan, I think there's a couple of obvious solutions here. Did you have any to offer before I share what I think you will already cover?
Well, it really just depends, right? So like, with NBA 2K, you've got the Legends edition where you'll have Kobe on it, but then you'll have the main edition that's got like Steph Curry or Luca on it, right? So if they're going with that route, then maybe like a national championship cover where you get Michigan and Jim Harbaugh and a bunch of players,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Stuff like that. But then when you're looking at the actual cover, right? Because Michigan won the national championship, Jane Daniels on the regular cover, stuff like that, right? Or Michael Penix to really just showcase who played well that season. But maybe you need the throwback ones, or you could have like the guys that we missed out on during that time, like let's say a Joe Burrow would be a prime example of that, or Kyler Murray, stuff like that, right? So like really just depends. We're talking probably main cover, probably going to go Jane Daniels, but that's kind of where I feel like they would go. But I'm going on a tangent here, Devin. But they could also just go with five guys on the cover, which I think would make a ton of sense too.
I think Daniels yet again would be an obvious pick, but I do like having the past Heisman winners. It would be a somewhat ode to the video game, given the a little bit of gap in time that we've had since the last game, to have all the Heisman covers or
Yeah.
players on the cover, and include Daniels on that list as well. That way you don't skip on him. That would be my pick, Dylan, in terms of cover. Will that happen? I don't know. I feel like that would be a lot of
Good idea.
coordinating to do, but hey, you would figure there's been nothing but time in terms of coordination between the when they plan this game and when it is planned to be released. And then with the recent news, Dylan, Nick Saban. I mean, you have to mention if you're going to talk anything about
Coaches edition.
Coaches Edition. See, there you go. That's your Kobe edition over there.
Yeah.
Nick Saban would be an obvious pick. I don't know if there's ever been a coach on the cover, and if there hasn't been, which I don't believe there has been, Dylan, that would be the obvious choice. And as Dylan said, it would make sense to be, maybe the Coaches Edition, or I don't know what you'd call it, Dylan, the General Manager Edition, the Floor General Edition. And then the other one, Dylan, Caleb Williams. If you wanted to split hairs between Daniels and Williams, you could. A lot of people think Williams will be one of the next great quarterbacks at the NFL level, Dylan. So that would be something of an investment, if you will, for EA Sports and in all this NIL funds we're talking about. But maybe just include him on the past Heisman cover, which I would advocate for. Yet again, that's my number one pick. But Dylan, any other cover ideas, or are you just going to put J.J. McCarthy on there?
Well, if I had my pick, I'd probably put Blake Corum or JJ McCarthy on there. But again, besides the point, I did have an idea that popped up. Maybe I've done this in the past, but team specific, or you can upload your own. Like you can have them print out a cover for you that you can customize yourself. But like you can do like, especially like big programs, right? You could do the Texas edition, so you can get like Ellinger on there, like guys that came through that you didn't have to have the chance to put on there. You know, the Alabama edition where you've got like Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Nick Saban up front, stuff like that, right? I feel like would be good, and then also they're just going to make a ton of money off that as well.
Well, I know it used to be popular for people to design their own covers, as you're saying, Dylan. So it would be nice if they made it easier for you to design it. And I don't know if you'd have to pay for that. I think it'd just be a nice thing to do. But yet again, microtransaction.
Yeah, the printing on that would just be an extra $25. I feel like.
Well, maybe you print it at home, Dylan. Let's think reasonable here. We're trying to save that money.
Make your own.
We're trying to save the mom's,
Oh,
paycheck money that is going into this game. Yet again, we don't advocate for you guys spending your parents' money on this, of course. But yeah, Dylan,
But we will.
Wow, well, I'll leave that to you. We might. But more importantly than our thoughts and comments,
gotta pay rent.
what is on your NCAA 24 wish list? I know the game should be coming out now in a couple of months, so there's not too much time to implement all these, but we'd like to see this, of course, sooner rather than later. Let us know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated, and have a great rest of your day.